Hello and welcome back to the What is Life Dude podcast, everybody. We're your hosts, Eric and Sarah.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
I almost forgot how to do the intro.
Right. So if you tuned in our last episode, we said we were going to start doing monthly podcast episodes. So hopefully we have more to talk about each month. And I really feel that's the case. First off, it hasn't even been a full month, but we just wanted to get onto our regular schedule of uploading the first Wednesday of each month. So it's been only really a half a month since our last episode came out. And it still feels like so much has happened since then.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy how much happens when you're not like doing a weekly roundup, on your life.
Yes.
So, I mean, where do you want to start? I think first we should start by just talking about how many episodes, if we were still doing weekly, how many episodes would we have done? This
Two or three?
This would have been the third, right? We would have done two in between the last one and now.
Right.
So, first of all, just like time-wise, preparing, uploading, editing, doing the podcast, brainstorming, it's freed up so much time and like mental, emotional faculties. Sure. Right? I don't know if that's the right place to use that. Sure. We've been doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's true. We've done a lot of music. We finally started working on an original song. I mean, we had a couple of other projects open that were original songs, but one of them's almost done, basically, now. And yeah, I feel like we're finally kind of in the swing of working together musically. We're like defining our sound. We're just throwing things at the wall, seeing what sticks, being less afraid of wasting time, because we know that whatever we do we're going to learn from it, right? I feel like we've just been out there like doing things.
Yeah. So
rather than thinking about it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it started with us doing a lot of rehearsal and picking cover songs that we wanted to rehearse in order to record them, put on YouTube, in order to play them at acoustic shows when that time comes around, whenever that may be. And then we kind of realized like we should be doing that, but we also wanted to feel more like we were making stuff.
Right.
And then we kind of went in on this first original song, which is one of my songs that I wrote and recorded in like 2016. But Sarah kind of asked me, do you have any songs that you want to repurpose and re-record as Cute Threat? And so there are like 4, 5 maybe.
Yeah.
And we picked one and started. We changed the key a little so Sarah, a woman, could sing it. And it's just been really cool. We messed with it so much before agreeing on what the vibe should really feel like.
Right.
And it was scary and it was difficult, but we did it. And now it's almost done.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk more about music, I'm sure. I wanted to just give like a little more broad update about other important things that I guess have happened for us over the past few weeks. One of them being fitness, I think. I mean, we had just started getting back into fitness by the time we uploaded our last episode, but I feel like it's a huge part of our lives again, and it's really, really nice.
Well, the cool thing is that it's a big part of our lives again, but don't you feel like last year, like spring 2020, it kind of overtook our lives in a way? And
maybe.
Like, we were trying to walk all the time. We couldn't go to the gym, but we were doing like the Murphs at home, the Murph workout. And then we got into hiking, and I feel like it's become a very balanced part of our lives this time, and a very healthy part.
Right. I agree. So kind of what happened is, right over the time when we were living in San Diego, we canceled our gym memberships because it was so friggin' busy everywhere we went, no matter what time of day. And, with COVID stuff, we just didn't feel super comfortable. And also, we didn't want to wait an hour for a squat rack in a busy gym in San Diego. So we were just running and walking and stuff, which was fine. I think it was nice to take a little break and not stress about that stuff for a while. But I don't know. I say this. I know everyone, like a lot of people are skeptics, but like tourist season, man, something about tourist season, springtime, I always feel very like embodied. I feel like over the winter, I'm kind of hibernating like physically, but also like I'm very much in my brain. I'm like sorting out what has happened over the course of the year, like trying to decide what I like, what I don't like, what I want to take forward with me. And then as soon as it starts to warm up again, it's like, yeah, I'm a physical human and I want to go outside and I want to be active and I want to eat good food. And it feels a little bit more easy, a little less heavy, a little less in my brain, you know?
Yeah. I definitely feel that too. I think I feel that in a more quote unquote like standard way, normal way. You know, like I just feel more motivated when spring comes around. Right. Like I think most people do. Yeah. I think you definitely have like a more exaggerated, more intense version of that. Right. You know, I feel like, I mean, I don't know, leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, but I feel like most people kind of like recluse a little in the winter if you live in a cold place.
Well, kind of, but also it's the holidays. Yeah. You know, and people are spending time with friends and family.
And we weren't in a cold place this winter.
No, we weren't.
For the first time in my life. And it was really weird. It was a very strange thing. Yeah. But yeah, I get like this, I don't know, I get like this hope when spring comes around. Like, right. Oh, things are going to be good again because there's warmth.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot happened 2020, right? But like when I look back on last spring when we were getting super into, like I was doing the Couch to 5K, running a lot. You were doing the Murphs. I was doing Murphs sometimes. By the way, if you're listening and you don't know what a Murph is, give them a little, like a quick rundown.
It's a workout named after some military person. I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm just going to say he was in the military because previously I've said what branch of the military he was in and what his like rank was, and I got them both wrong, I think. Sure. So he was in the military, but it's this workout where you're supposed to do it as fast as you can. The full thing is a mile run, 100 pull-ups.
Oh my God.
200 push-ups, 300 body squats, so just squatting your body weight, and then another mile run. Yes. And you're supposed to do it as fast as you possibly can. So we were doing like a quarter of it, a half of it, right? We'd go run a quarter mile.
Did you do a full one ever?
I think I did. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it took me a long time. Right. You know, it took me like twice as long as like the professional CrossFit athletes do it. Twice as long.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so we were doing that. We were getting into hiking. And will you say like you think it overtook our lives? And I'm like, kind of, in that we did try to kind of make it our identity. And then we realized not really for us. And then we kind of swung in the exact opposite direction. And yes, now I feel like we're kind of in the middle. We're like balancing it. It's not the only part of our personality that's interesting that we talk about. But like that being said, we didn't have anywhere to go at the time. We couldn't go to the gym. We were in full lockdown and it was nice for us to be outside. And I feel like I did learn a lot from that period and I remember it fondly, which is why lately when I've like, I don't know, listen, I've just been so depressed over the past several months and just trying to figure out what can I do to make it feel better. And I was like, listen, I don't have anything to go off of here. So I'm just going to remember the last time I was feeling happy, which was like that period of time. And I'm just going to start copying things I was doing then. So I'm like, fitness, it's kind of has to be at the forefront of my life right now because it's one of the few things that I feel like I can control that makes me consistently feel good, right? It's like some things are just beyond your control. Like you can't always just talk yourself into feeling better, but it's rare that you go to the gym and regret it, right? Yeah. It's like a net positive.
Yeah. Something about that little, not a speech, but all the things you just said.
My rant.
I felt like I was watching you on the podcast, not like I was sitting here recording it with you. I don't know. I never really gotten that feeling where I'm like very aware that we're recording and filming a podcast. And that it just happened for the first time. I was like, I feel like I'm watching this on YouTube, but I'm here. Right. Weird. Yeah, so we've really been balancing this fitness thing in. We joined a gym here.
We love it.
We love it. It is very big. Yeah. People seem to mostly be respectful. the mask thing, you know, like, because COVID's still weird. It's like, I don't even know what to think about it anymore. It's like, I think we talked about it, but we tried out one gym and like no one was wearing a mask. It was like a weird vibe.
Right.
And we were like, whoa, this is strange. We've never been in a place like this since COVID started, where everyone like mutually agrees not to wear a mask.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we're not joining this gym.
Well, there were other reasons also why we wouldn't have joined that gym.
Yeah.
Namely, it was a ripoff, but,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. So we found one where people seem to be respectful in many ways, and it's very clean and big, and it's very affordable for how nice it is.
Right.
And it actually makes you want to go.
Yeah.
Which is nice. So we found a little home there. We went for our first hike.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Which I'm going to take my dad on when he comes out this summer.
I think he would like it. It was really nice. Really nice.
It was a hike to a little waterfall.
Yeah.
It was kind of hot.
We vlogged it, if you guys are curious and you haven't seen it.
did.
It's on the Sarah's Vegan Kitchen channel. We did a little What I Eat in a Day vlog, and we brought you along on the hike. So
It was fun. The other thing we've been doing fitness-wise is, do you want to talk about the food thing?
sure.
Because
I don't want to get too far into it because, you know,
it's not
it's
like
a sensitive topic.
Yeah. We've been tracking our food.
Macros.
Our
I've been tracking
macros.
macros, yeah.
And it's something that I've done before, and it was really stressful for me. It really
Yeah?
stressed me out to
When's
do
the
it.
last time you did that?
Oh, years ago.
Like before we met?
Before we met, yeah. But I was basically, and it was weird. I think I must have been doing it like too extreme or incorrect.
I feel like that is the tendency because people are
Right.
like, oh, I want to lose some weight. Like, obviously, the less I can eat, the better, right?
Yeah.
Which is not true, really.
I was just hungry all the time.
Yeah.
So now I've kind of figured out how many calories I expend on a daily basis. And now I'm eating like a little bit below that.
Right.
And I'm not hungry. I feel good. I feel energized, and I feel healthy.
Right.
And it's just been a very positive experience thus far for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the last time I have tracked was back in like 2017 when I was working with a strength coach, like an actual powerlifting coach. And I got strong as fuck, like, honestly. And so I haven't done it since then because I haven't really had specific like strength or physique goals. I've just, for the most part, I've been like, yeah, I want to be fairly active and eat fairly healthy. But yeah, it is interesting. It feels a lot more, I don't know. I am enjoying the structure right now, which I think is really important to be honest with yourself about, because yes, I think it is easy to take it too far and be obsessive about it. And I mean, certainly like 5 years ago, it would not have been mentally healthy for me to be tracking. Yeah.
And the other thing I've noticed is the tracking has really been helpful to me because sometimes you just being a general you to the world, sometimes you don't realize how much you're eating, whether it's a lot or a little.
Yeah.
So Sarah always tells me, she's like, I don't think you're eating enough. Like,
that's what I've been saying that
Yeah.
for years.
and you're like, I literally don't think you're eating enough. So now that we're tracking things, you know, Sarah made this pasta dish a few nights ago, and she put this huge, absolutely huge bowl of pasta, veggies, sauce, and like vegan meat crumbles. And I was like, I can't eat all this food. This is so much food. And you were like, it's actually only 650 calories, which is like, for me at my size, like the perfect size dinner.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? It's so much food.
Yeah.
And I just kind of realized, like, obviously depending on what you're eating, sometimes you can eat so much more than you think
Right.
when it's veggies and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just reshaped my viewpoint and my knowledge, what I know about nutrition. It's really cool.
Yeah, it is interesting. I definitely I'm not going to do it like forever, but I think it is really useful if you can do it in a mentally healthy way to track for like a couple weeks or a month just to make sure, yes, you're eating enough and that like kind of the macro distribution that you're consuming is correct depending on I guess most people, the average person, doesn't really need to track those things. But like for me, for example, I always find that I need to get a certain amount of protein to actually progress in my lifts past like the newbie phase, which I find myself back in now, because I basically haven't lifted consistently for over a year. Yeah. And it's just weird, man, to be back in the gym and be lifting weights that, like, I started lifting back in 2016 when I first joined a gym. I'm like, oh my God. Like, yeah.
It's been nice.
Yes.
Yeah. It feels good. It feels healthy. And you get to this point where you start realizing you don't eat that much variety of food.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, maybe some people do, but I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I mostly eat rice, tofu.
Yeah.
You know, like I eat certain vegan prepared meats, like chicken nuggets, patties, burgers, whatever.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where if you track for 2 weeks, you can just stop, because you're like, well, now I know how much everything is. So I know kind of, let me just eyeball this portion, and I know that's probably fine.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest, like the most eye-opening piece of this is like realizing exactly how much like sugar I consume if I'm not tracking. Because like, I mean, I talked about this in my vlog too, but I've always identified as someone who doesn't really have a sweet tooth. I'm like, oh, I love chips and savory stuff. But like, I realize when I'm like tracking, I wake up, I'll have like an Oreo with my coffee. And then I'll just eat an Oreo between every meal. Like every time I pass the Oreos, I'll just eat an Oreo. And then I'll have ice cream. And then I'll have a donut. And it just like, it just sneaks up on you. So it's interesting, you know.
Yeah, when you make a plan to write everything down that you eat, and you realize you're adding an Oreo in like every 3
10
hours.
10 times a day.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God, I eat so many fucking Oreos. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like a matter of good food, bad food, because I know that is also kind of a damaging mentality, but it's more like, do I need to eat like 10 Oreos a day? There's still obviously, like, I eat dessert every single day, and it feels really nice to know that it's accounted for and I can still be reaching my goals and that I'm getting enough protein, you know? So I don't know. I like it.
And if you are listening to us talk about this and you're like, oh, that seems cool, you'll find your own way of wanting to approach it. Yeah. Like, I don't track any vegetables. You know, like if I'm not like, oh, I ate a quarter of an onion and 60% of a zucchini that weighs this much. I'm just like, man, they're vegetables. They're good for you. I'm not writing it down. Yeah. If I go 100 calories over because of all the vegetables I ate, I mean, I know maybe scientifically it doesn't make any sense, but I just don't care, because I'm like, yeah, they're veggies.
I mean, at some level, you just the specificity doesn't matter that much, because there's no way of knowing exactly how much is in, right? Like the information that's in the nutrition, like, what is it?
Apps.
Yeah. It's just like an average, just an average. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah. I feel like maybe like average like standard American diet person might need to track, like, am I eating enough vegetables? But we eat so many vegetables.
We are constantly eating vegetables and thus pooping.
Just constantly.
Just a constant state of poop.
Yeah.
So let's take this to another thing. Let's pivot, because I think this conversation, we're talking about how we feel good because of nutrition. We feel good because of exercising. So I want to kind of pivot to the clothing thing. Another thing that makes us feel good.
Right. Oh, wait, can I just wrap this like little topic up, the fitness, nutrition thing? I think the reason it makes me feel better is because it's a form of structure. And I think everyone is a little bit different. Like, everyone has a different set point. Some people naturally thrive off of structure, and some people like me, I find it so difficult to actually hold myself accountable for things. And I'm very emotional. And if I'm sad, I don't follow through with things that I tell myself I'm going to do. I don't keep promises to myself, basically. And I feel like depending on which extreme you're at, sometimes it's just nice to kind of push yourself in the opposite direction. So maybe someone like routinely has to track everything, and it would be a little healthy for them to kind of loosen the reins a little. But for me, someone who I could just get sad and not accomplish anything in a day, it's really helpful for me to just make things more concrete, I think, to have set goals. So I think that's what's happening.
I would agree with that, knowing you very well.
Yes.
So let's talk about clothes, because I feel like it fits in a little bit.
Yeah.
We've each gotten some new clothes. I don't even know how to intro this. I don't even know how to segue. I bought some new socks. I bought 4 new pairs of socks.
We both got new socks.
Well, Sarah bought, do you want to?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No free foot content, people.
You're wearing socks.
Yes.
Sarah is loyal to this brand in Gingy. They make like athletic toe socks, as in each toe gets its own mini, it's like a glove for your foot.
Yes.
And I know you're probably thinking, aren't all socks like gloves for your feet? No, wrongo.
They're like mittens for your feet.
Exactly.
And mine are gloves.
They're gloves. Every toe gets a slot in the sock.
All right.
So Sarah needed more because, well, let's just say you bought a few pairs of the nice ones and then you wanted many, many pairs. So like this was last year.
I bought an economy pack of inferior quality toe
right.
socks.
And then they're all falling apart.
Yes.
So you made a bigger purchase and bought more of the high quality ones. And then I felt jealous because I don't have enough socks that I like. So I bought a 4-pack of Bombas, which is the brand I am loyal to. And here's some free foot content for you. They're so comfortable, but there's just something about like having nice new socks, just a positivity box of sorts.
Sure. You're like, anyway, thanks to Bombas for sponsoring today's episode.
I wish. Yeah. If you haven't noticed, we don't have any sponsors. So, no, what was I saying? I also bought shirts. I realized I have a lot of shirts in my closet from when I was a senior in college, and I had gone from being kind of chubby to being more average sized. And I texted my sister Allison, who I went to college with, and I said, can we go to the mall? And I want to buy some new shirts. So I bought a bunch of shirts that made me look like, I don't know, like a preppy young professional kind of. You know what I mean? Just like, they were still t-shirts, but they were, I don't know, brighter colored. And I don't know, I still have them and I don't wear them is my point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't I wear them? And I was thinking, because I like plain dark shirts. Unless I'm wearing like a Mets shirt or something. Let's go Mets. I like to perform in dark clothes. So I'm wearing one of the shirts right now. It's literally a $6 plain black shirt from Target. And it makes me so happy. And I bought a bunch of them because I feel good in a plain dark shirt. I think it started because we were talking about what we want our image to be, like as musicians.
Sure.
And I'm like, you know, we went thrifting and I got all those like plaid button down shirts
for playing live shows.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to dress
business casual on my day-to-day life
or at all. You know, like I feel like I just from nobody at all, nobody specifically, but maybe just societally felt this pressure to dress. I don't know, men in their mid-20s dress like this. Like, oh, he looks like a nice young man. And I'm like, I don't want to dress to look like a nice young man. I want to wear, when I was younger, I just wore black band t-shirts. And I'm like, I like that, but without the band t-shirt part of it. So I just bought a bunch of plain black shirts. And that's what I'm wearing, and I love it. It's just simple and easy, and it makes me feel good.
Right.
So that's the thing. You can respond.
Oh, I don't know if I have anything to respond to. I mean, we're very much the opposite, yes? Like Eric, I feel like if you guys, I'm sure we've mentioned him on the podcast before too, but Matt Diavella, he makes content about, I guess he started making content about minimalism and that's how his channel kind of grew. But he also just in general makes videos about self-development and does interesting experiments.
Self-development?
Yes. But he has a video about how he just wears the same shirt every single day, as in he went to like J. Crew or something and bought multiple copies of the same
He just bought
gray
12 of the
shirt.
same shirt.
Yeah. And he's like, yep, It helps me not have to stress about what I'm going to wear. It makes me consistently feel good. I used to have a lot more variety, and I realized that I was just digging through my drawer trying to find this favorite shirt that I had that made me feel good. So I just got rid of everything else, and now I wear this shirt, right? And I feel like because I am, or have been, I guess, in the past, I'm kind of recovering from it, from this self-development world. And a lot of them are minimalists. And I'm like, oh, I should be a minimalist. That would make me way happier. And it's just not, it doesn't work for me because I like variety. I like having a bunch of different colors of gym wear, for example. And I don't know, like we're just different in that way. And the more you can just kind of embrace what you actually want to look like, the better, I say.
Yeah, and the weird thing that I'm coming across for myself is that it's just shirts for me. Like it's literally just t-shirts. Like I've noticed that when I want to put on a t-shirt, I don't want to wear any of my t-shirts. So I bought dark gray and dark black plain t-shirts from Target. But I still have gym shorts that I have like 4 of them and they're all different colors. I have socks that are...
But how much of that is because I selected them?
A
lot of them were gifts from me.
Right, but I still love them.
Yes.
Is the thing. And I have socks. Like I don't just wear plain black socks. I have 7 pairs of Bombas that are all different colors.
Sure.
I like that. I have shoes that are different colors. Sometimes, like if I'm lounging around the house, I have Met shirts and random shirts from the dispensary when they gave me a free shirt on 420. But it's like when I'm on camera or when we're on stage or something, it's like, how do I want to just present as this person? I'm like, I just want to wear a plain shirt. Sure. So I'm like not at the minimalist level.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that, but there's degrees, right? And I wouldn't be offended
if you were saying that.
Well, I happen to think you are a minimalist.
I can't believe you said that. Honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's just a weird thing I found, but it makes me feel comfy.
Right.
And good.
Yes. I don't have as much to say about it, but I have recently re-downloaded my thrifting apps, the Poshmark, the Depop, because I don't know. I realize that I like being into this fit lifestyle. For me, a huge part of it is looking cute, right? I feel like a lot of, men and women feel this way, but I think women especially, like, it never hurts to have a cute outfit that you feel confident in, right? That fits your body wherever it is. And I like it. So I've been kind of trying to thrift higher quality pieces online, obviously, rather than spending a bunch of money retail, right? Yes.
Yeah. So we've both been finding clothes that make us look good, feel good. Feel good, look good. Honestly, I think if you feel good, you'll look good. Not necessarily the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, both are good for both.
That's true.
Both influence the other positively, usually, unless it's a weird obsession. But I feel like also part of me being sad too over the winter was that I was just always bundled up and I just constantly felt very frumpy and I just kind of dissociated from my own body. And I don't know, like there's a reason we're here as humans, right? We're not just brains in jars. I think I've said this before. It's like there's so many things, there's good and bad things about being a human. Why not enjoy the freedom we have to express ourselves physically, right? Like the way people dress is such a big, it's like that first impression you make on the world and other people who never even talk to you that you pass on the street will see how you dress and make inferences about you. And it's like another place where you have some control over the narrative that you are, I don't know, telling to the world, I guess. Yeah.
And it's just, the whole thing is so complicated and complex because, you know, I was just thinking, like, well, people make inferences about me when they see me walk by. Like, let's say I'm wearing this plain black shirt and I walk by and someone sees me. They're probably not going to notice my shirt because it's plain black, but they're going to notice my tattoos. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I have tattoos. I don't need to express myself by wearing a colorful shirt. My arms are colorful. Sure. And then I was like, well, our friend Travis wears like eccentric t-shirts and tie-dye shirts all the time, and he has more tattoos than me. I'm like, so he chooses to present himself doubly in that way, which is also fine.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, it's so
there's
so complicated.
layers. There's layers, and
like
then
an
obviously, like an onion. Conditioning goes into that too. So, but I don't know. At some level, it's you can't really get to the bottom of it and see what's genuinely you, who you'd be, how you'd express if you had never been influenced by society. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no way to. I mean, all these things wouldn't even exist if there was no prior thousands of years of society.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, on the topic of tattoos too, it's so funny how different people make different inferences based on their upbringing too, because like a lot of times you'll be out right and people will be like, oh, cool tattoos. Oh, I love your tattoos. And maybe they have tattoos too. But I just remember being a kid and I'd be with my dad. We'd pass someone in a parking lot and he'd be really tatted up. And my dad would be like, he would like make fun of me, be like, oh, don't come home with a boy like that, you know? He'd be like, oh, but daddy, I love him. You know what I mean?
He would say that?
Yeah.
Wow. He really
just like, you know.
It just sounds like it sounds like a Jim Carrey thing.
Yeah.
It's like your dad doing two characters.
I feel, yes.
It's very.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
You came home with a boy with tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell though. I mean, like now that we're adults, like you can look at someone's tattoos and be like, oh, that was done by a nice artist, or like that was done in prison. Like you can tell, usually you can tell by what the tattoo looks like.
Sure.
You know? But I do know what you mean. And I feel like growing up, it was the same thing. It was like people with tattoos equal bad person.
Yeah.
And now it's like people with tattoos equals somebody over the age of 20. Yeah.
Yes.
Like everyone has a tattoo now. Like at least one tattoo.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of our friends don't have a tattoo?
Robbie?
Actually, I guess I'm friends with some fucking nerds, so they don't have tattoos.
No, I think most people don't have tattoos, but a lot of people do.
More people. Yeah. I want to get more. And I will. I want to get a matching tattoo with Sarah.
Sure.
What did I just say I wanted to get with you?
I don't know.
Let's get like a pizza or something.
Okay.
That would be cute.
Sure.
Right? A little pepperoni.
I would absolutely never get a pizza tattooed on my body.
Let's go get a real pizza.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so where do you want to go next? Do you want to talk about our summer trip?
Sure.
I'm very, very excited.
Okay. To segue into this, I want to say, okay.
Whenever you say segue, I think of Job.
On the segue, making a hard pivot. And then segueing back to the banana stand. Okay. So back to this whole multiple month depression thingy. A couple ways that I like to get myself out of it.
I like that you called it a thingy after calling it a multiple month depression.
Well, I don't want to go into like the sad part of it, but I want to talk about getting out of it, which I feel like I'm doing better at lately. So I said earlier, the first thing I did was I looked back on times when I remembered historically having been happy. And then I picked and chose a couple of habits that I had during those times. And I said, let's try them on again. See if they feel good. So the fitness, good, right? But then the other part of it is, oh no, I'm losing my voice because I'm screaming because I'm so enthusiastic and caffeinated.
You're drinking decaf coffee.
But I had pre-workout and caffeinated coffee this morning.
Good point.
Oh my God. He's
Ooh, that's good.
stealing my drink. So the other part of it is look at where your comfort zone is and see how much of your comfort zone is actually serving you. Me, I've always identified as a homebody. And then at some point I had to ask myself, am I a homebody because it's in my best interest, or am I a homebody because I'm complacent and I'm being a little lazy, I guess, and I'm a bit in a rut and I'm so sad that I can't really force myself to go outside. And it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? Like there's nothing wrong with enjoying your time at home. And I do, but I enjoy it more when I don't like to use the word force, when I challenge myself to get out of that comfort zone. So for me, it just started by going on a walk every day. That little thing, just spending more time in the sun, getting in the steps, not being in my little cave. Our house is kind of dark.
Well, yeah, fucking just keeps happening. If you're familiar with all the places we've lived,
Yeah,
we lived in a huge, beautiful, open house in the middle of San Diego, and it was still somehow dark.
yeah.
Just only us, apparently, right? We're gonna need to go full Billy Joel and buy a glass house at some point. Only way to do it.
Yeah.
But I remember at the beginning of, sorry, not the beginning, last episode we did a few weeks ago, we talked about seeing our friends from Boulder, and you talked about leaving the house.
Yes.
And how revolutionary it was for this reason.
But like before we were planning, so we had made those plans, right? And then it was the day of, and I was like, ugh, I don't want to go. Like, I just don't want to go. I want to stay here. I want to do work. And I was really grumpy. And then we went and we spent time in the sun and we talked to other people because other people exist. It's not just you in your tiny world, Sarah. And then I felt so good. And I was like, holy shit, like I should challenge myself to do things like this more. And then again, I looked back and I was like, oh, I love traveling because I'm out of my comfort zone. I don't have all of my... I like my things, but sometimes it's nice to be free of them, yeah?
Something we say about Sarah, and now we both say this, so I don't use this word derogatorily towards Sarah. She said it herself. But what we say about Sarah is the bitch loves novelty.
I do.
So this is like a thing we say in our relationship about Sarah. So don't call me out on it, okay? Mm-hmm. But it's true.
Yes.
Like, we love being at home and whatnot, but you really do. You love new things.
Venus and Gemini.
And
people,
new experiences.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when we were in Costa Rica a few years ago, you look back on that and...
Oh, it makes me weep how happy I was then.
I mean, we were walking around. It was hot. We were sweaty. We didn't have any transportation. We got an Airbnb that was
super cheap. Yeah.
That was cheap, and it was far from where everyone else that was a part of this wedding we were attending was staying downtown. Mm-hmm. Downtown. Yeah. It's very small. But, we had to walk 20 minutes to get to where everyone else was staying for the week, right? Mm-hmm. And it was while it was happening, we were like, oh,
I was never hot. Like that.
I was
thriving the whole time.
Right. But then looking back on it, it's like, wow, that's the first and last time we'll ever do that exact thing. Mm-hmm. Right. And then we look back at our life, or we examine our life now, and we're like, we do the exact same thing every day.
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, we were just eating like beans and rice and like salsa every day. Yeah. Super cheap meals. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't about how much money we were spending. It was just like the experience. It was putting ourselves in a situation we wouldn't normally be in. Yeah. Yeah. And
it really makes your... Well, you've mentioned what Rhett and Link have talked about on ear biscuits before, which is... Well, you explain.
No, you go ahead. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
We're both talking a lot. It's been 40 minutes. Wow.
Yeah.
Rhett, I think it was Rhett who was talking about it, basically said the reason... I'm going to butcher it now. The reason life feels shorter as you get older is because you start having less novel experiences, less new experiences.
Right.
So at the beginning of your life, basically just as you get older from the moment you're born, time goes by more quickly because you're having less new experiences.
Right.
So when you're a kid, you do a lot of things for the first time, like a lot, up until you're a teenager.
Yes.
Like everything's new. But then as you get older and older, you start
settling into your routine, yeah.
Yeah, and you just do less new things. Mm-hmm. And it makes time go by more quickly.
Right.
Or, you perceive it more quickly.
Right. And that's something that from a what is life dude perspective has always freaked me out and made me really sad. Mm-hmm. So I decided, and then I would always think about how much I've talked about this. I look back on 2017 and it just feels like this golden point in my life because so much was changing, and like falling in love is such a, like, it's something that happens so rarely in life, right? And you're like, how do I get back to that? And it's because when you're like falling in love and you're dating, you're willing to take more risks. You're trying to make yourself the best version of you. you're going, right? Like I visited Colorado and we went to a baseball game and we went to the batting cages and just all sorts of things. And then I feel like in relationships, like unless you're making a conscious effort to keep doing new things together, sometimes you just settle into your cozy little routine, which is nothing against that. But, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why for you listening or watching, most of you are probably thinking, oh, yeah, I've had conversations like that with my friends where we're like, the years just keep flying by now. Yeah. I mean, like, even if you're our age, like in your late 20s, right? Or early 30s.
Yeah.
Honey.
Right. That's another thing. Oh, yeah. Since our last episode, I turned 30.
I have stayed 26.
Wow.
There's a rare...
There's like 4 months.
Just over 3 months.
We're 4 years apart.
We're 4 years apart, yeah. It makes the gap seem much bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, so yeah, that's definitely a thing. I know I've talked to my friends about it. We're like, the time just keeps flying on by. And it will the more and more you know, keep your life the same on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And I think about that and it scares me and terrifies me and makes me sad. And then at some point I was like, wait, like I can do all the things that I was doing that made my life seem so interesting and made time feel so expansive. But you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. So in the past couple weeks, right, we planned like a little trip into Denver. Eric saw a baseball game with friends.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
just
it was
for
great.
A quick sec.
Right.
So last time we did the podcast, we talked about how I bought tickets to the Friday night game. The Mets were playing the Rockies. It was very cold. It snowed. The game got canceled. And they said, okay, instead of playing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're going to play 2 games on Saturday and 1 game on Sunday. So I texted the 3 friends I was going with because I was bringing 3 of my buddies. Well, not bringing them. They paid me. And Sarah was going to come down with me. I was going to drop her in a hotel. She was going to have a nice relaxing night by herself.
And I did.
And she did. But what actually ended up happening was so much better than the original plan. So at first I freaked out because I was like, I got to change the hotel. I have to, just the way baseball doubleheaders work, you can't, you have to basically get a refund for your tickets and buy new tickets to the next game.
Sure.
So I put in a refund request. I asked my friends and I bought tickets to the Saturday games. Basically, I bought tickets to 1 game for Saturday and they said, well, you can go to both. So I was like, okay, well, there are 2 games now. But one of our friends, Robbie, couldn't come. So I was like, okay, well, someone's got to come with us. And then I remembered that one of my close childhood friends, who I haven't seen literally in years, happened to be driving from New York to Utah and driving through Denver the night that the game was happening. And we used to watch the Mets together all the time when I lived at home. So just freak accident, freak timing.
Like what happened with your sister and our road trip to Colorado.
Right.
Yeah.
So we ended up crossing paths. He was in Denver for the night. He came to the game with us. Sarah stayed in the hotel. We ended up going to the first game on Saturday. We all left the stadium. We went and got ramen at a restaurant. Sarah walked from the hotel, met us there. We all had ramen together. Sarah walked back. Me and my buddies went back for the second game, watched 2.5 more hours of baseball, went to the hotel, and Sarah and I had a nice night. And
ate a lot of junk food.
We had
cupcakes and these vegan chocolate wafers that are kind of like Kit Kats, but just delicious, and some jerky, details.
And then the next day we woke up and the concierge, is that the person at the hotel?
Yes.
Yeah. They basically said, yeah, you can leave your car parked in the lot until the end of the day, basically. Like, you have parking for the whole day.
Even though we had checked out.
Right. So I was like, okay. So we went and we walked like a mile to...
In the sun.
Well, that's the other thing. Friday and Saturday were both cold, kind of shitty days. And then Sunday was supposed to be a beautiful, warm day. And it was. So we walked like a mile to this vegan restaurant. We got brunch. And while we were there... I was like, well, it's a pretty nice day. The Mets do play at 1 o'clock, and it was like 11:30.
Right.
And Sarah was like, I knew you were going to want to go to the Sunday game. Do you want to go? And I was like, maybe. So we were sitting at brunch, and I pulled out my phone and bought like the cheapest tickets I could find. we we went to the Sunday game in the sun. It was nice. We drove home. Everything was great. Right. So basically, the plan originally was, just to recap, the original plan was go down to Denver on Friday. Sarah goes to the hotel. I go with my friends and sit and see one game it was supposed to be 30 degrees. So we're all going to be freezing, but it'll be worth it. We get to see a baseball game. What ended up happening was I got to see a friend. I got to spend basically a whole day with one of my close friends who I haven't seen in a long time. We saw 2 baseball games, and then Sarah and I saw the 3rd game the next day. Mm-hmm. It was just like everything was better than it would have been originally.
Right.
And that's it. That's the story.
Yeah. And I mean, it's very uncharacteristic of us, I think, to make kind of spontaneous plans because we get stressed out when we're not at home and we're not, working or whatever. And it was just a great experience. I got so many steps in. I was just walking around. I walked to Whole Foods when they were still at the game on Saturday night. And I don't know, just another one of those experiences like I think I talked about in the last episode, which is like just to remind yourself that we're in a world of other humans and everyone is the main character of their life. And your problems aren't sometimes they are. They're not always as big as you make them out to be.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that was the first. Wasn't there a second event, a second thing you wanted to talk about? Or were we just going to talk about the summer trip?
Oh, I mean, we also went climbing.
Oh, we did go climbing.
Right.
Oh, that's the other thing. One of our friends who used to live in Colorado Springs.
She was coming to pick up her car to bring it back to her new place in Ohio.
Yeah. So she was like, can we hang out? And we were like, sure. So we went and got food. We went and got
drinkies, which we never do. Literally, I don't remember the last time we went out and paid for a drink.
Yeah. It's really nice that like people are getting vaccinated and stuff and we can like go places.
Right. I mean, everything's still
distanced. Yeah. You have to wear a mask unless you're at your seat, whatever. But it's just nice that it's like kind of a little more normal and I feel a little more safe.
Right.
Less like I'm going to die. Right. Which is pretty cool. We're actually getting our 2nd doses tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we're recording this and then we're going to take the plunge tomorrow and hope we don't feel like absolute garbage on Thursday, which we're fully prepared to. Fully prepared to feel like shit on Thursday.
Right.
Which is good. It's like, it could kind of be a day off,
Yeah.
But anyway, we saw her and we got pizza and the Mets played a terrible game that night, but I was determined to find a place where we can sit.
Bar.
Yeah, I just wanted to sit somewhere with Sarah and our friend and like we can all chat and just have the Mets on in the background. But we live in Colorado and the Mets they're not on TV in Colorado. Right. So you have to find a place that has like the MLB package that shows every game, right? So we went like bar to bar trying to find a place. And we finally found a place and they lost by like 16 or something. It was
my God.
Absolutely awful. It was not worth it at all. We got the same Lyft driver twice. Yeah. That was funny.
And then the next day we went to a climbing gym.
On your birthday.
Again, like kind of on a whim. We weren't planning to do that. Mm-hmm. And listen, we were climbing in 2018, right? For a couple months there. Mm-hmm. And then you stopped. You canceled your membership. And then I didn't like going alone. So I canceled mine. Mm-hmm. And now we kind of, after our experience climbing with our friend the other day, kind of want to start doing it regularly. So
it's a little too pricey to have a gym membership at our normal gym and a monthly membership.
Yeah.
Well, the monthly membership at the climbing gym is twice as expensive.
Yeah.
Right. So we'd essentially be paying 3 times what we're paying now.
Right.
So they have like a Thursday deal. It's like half off for a day pass. So we're like, maybe every other week we'll just go climbing.
Yeah.
And it's just a little thing that we're excited to do again. And it was a lot of fun the first time.
And it was like very empty compared to our old bouldering gym in Boulder. Which was so full.
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah. And I was sore for days after. My forearms and my like really everything on my body was in excruciating pain for days after. I'm like, oh my God.
Your feet from being cramped to the shoes.
That was mostly you.
That was mostly me. My tootsies hurt. Your fingers hurt and they get like shredded up.
Yeah.
And it was like we're like, wow, I forgot about how hard this is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the other experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer trip?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to New York this summer. We're going in July. We are going to see... Well, why are we going? We're going because we want to see the family, but the family is also having an event at the end of July. There are like a few things happening in the same week. Two of my sisters, one of them just had a baby. The other one's having a baby. So by the time July comes around, we'll have two multi-month-old children in the family. So people are going to come and we're going to meet the babies and we're going to hang out. We haven't seen my family in a long, long time.
Since 2019.
Yeah, we saw my dad in 2020 in February, right before the shit went down. And that was the last time we've seen anyone outside of my Colorado family.
Your sister.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it'll have been 2 years since we saw everyone together.
Together's really the point, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going there. It's my stepmom's birthday the same week. It's my sister Lauren's birthday the same week. My birthday's the next week.
Feisty Leo energy.
Yeah, 3 out of the 7 of us in my family are Leos.
Mm-hmm.
That's caused some
Spicy.
problems. Yeah. Spicy. Yeah, so we're doing that, but I was thinking, I don't know, I just kept thinking about upstate New York where I went to college. And I was like, I keep telling Sarah, I want to take you to Ithaca. I want to take you to Ithaca. And no, I did not go to Cornell. If you're listening and you know anything about Ithaca, I went to Ithaca College. Not Cornell. Not Cornell. Sorry, Mom and Dad. They don't care at all. I'm a musician, not a scholar. So we were like, what if we can combine the trips? How would we be able to do that? So basically where my family lives on Long Island, it's like 5 hours from where I went to school. So we're basically going to fly in, borrow my dad's car, go up to Ithaca for a few nights, drive back.
Lots of outdoorsy stuff there.
Yeah, and then see the whole family for that week. So we'll have like half of it's alone time. The other half of it is stressful/fun family time.
Right.
Not stressful for any particular reason, just because
being
you know
with family
what happens.
is overwhelming sometimes, you
Yeah.
know, when you're used to having your own space.
You know how it be. Mm-hmm. I'm just so there's so many cool things to do up there and places to eat and things to explore and waterfalls to see. Mm-hmm. And I'm just very, very excited. I'm also excited to just fucking do something.
Yeah.
Like to go somewhere else.
I love to have things to look forward to. So when we talk about including more novel experiences to make time feel more expansive, and just feel a little bit more alive for me personally, I feel like to some degree scheduling that in, like, okay, now we're going to go do something out of our comfort zone, can be helpful. So it's nice for us to be like, oh, maybe every other Thursday we're going to go to the climbing gym. And then on the Thursdays we're not there, maybe we'll try to go on a new hike, you know? And then I'm like, oh, we should go start sitting at breweries that have outdoor seating this summer, which we never used to want to spend money on before. But sometimes we've realized it's nice to spend money on experiences, because sometimes just being out of your little comfort zone, especially when you're used to working at home all day, kind of sparks your creativity again, I think.
And it's funny how we're like dissecting and planning things that just come naturally to so many people.
Right.
People who are just like, I go to a brewery every day. Mm-hmm. And we're like, would that be fun? Ooh, do people like doing this brewery thing?
I'm like looking at all the menus and like on Google Photos or the like Google reviews, looking at the photos. Do I want to sit here? What seat am I going to sit at actually though?
If that seat's taken, do we leave? Is it even worth it to find another seat?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that should be fun. Mm-hmm. All these, just like planning these little novel experiences.
Yes.
Yeah. What else do we want to talk about? Oh my God, are we done?
Are we?
Was that the whole thing? You say something. Let me look at my list.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That's trying to convince Sarah to buy the Little Martin with me is on my list.
God.
There's this very small travel guitar I want, which I really do not need, but
you
for some
really
reason
don't need it.
For some reason, thinking about going upstate New York and having this little Airbnb with a porch and like nice shrubbery around, I'm like, I want to like play music. Sarah reminded me that every time we've brought an acoustic guitar somewhere, like every time we've traveled with an acoustic guitar, we never use it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, things are different now. We're making music. We have a song. We have a song recorded. Mm-hmm. So who knows what'll happen?
Right.
Who knows? That was on the list. We shan't talk about that any further. That's kind of all I have. I have helping Sarah with her email.
Oh,
that's
we can talk about that briefly.
That's the only other thing. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you guys may be clued in on this saga where I've just tried to find a way to make my online work feel good and not overwhelming because, as I mentioned before, I get overwhelmed by things very easily, and then I shut down, and then I don't accomplish anything, and then I beat myself up about it. It's a spiral. I get a lot of anxiety about answering emails or really any form of written communication, staying caught up with DMs, answering texts. etc.
Sarah's one of those, like, has 200 text notifications at any given time. People.
Yes. So, you know, in a perfect world, we are all identifying our weaknesses and overcoming them. Sometimes it's just not that straightforward. So, you know, while I aspire to be a person who promptly responds to all form of correspondence, you know, in the meantime, I just gave Eric access to my business email. And
you took like 2 hours to just email all the people you have reoccurring correspondence with and said, hi, sorry, email this person instead.
Yeah.
And that person is me.
Yes. So I hate sending invoices, for example, which is weird because who doesn't enjoy getting paid? For some reason, it stirs up some of my weird
guilt, shame.
Yeah, I don't like asking for money. I don't like negotiating for more money.
I love doing both of those things, especially when it's for somebody else, being you, because I can like see the work you put in, and it, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, you worked your ass off on that. Get your money. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's like, I think this morning, between today and yesterday, I sent invoices to 3 different brands you had worked with over however many months, whatever. And it's just something that would have taken Sarah a long time to do, and people would follow up. Hey, invoice. And Sarah's just kind of like, eh.
Well, it's more like,
it's stressful. Ah! Right. I didn't want to
screams.
Right. I didn't want to, you know, say anything you didn't want to talk about.
Yeah.
But Sarah just doesn't like doing that. So I'm kind of like, here's an invoice, give her that money.
Right.
It's really been working out.
Yeah. And I mean, this is probably like another episode, but as far as being in a relationship, any kind of relationship, and kind of carving out which responsibilities go with which person, sometimes it's just easier to have the person that is not freaked out about something. Like, it's easier to have them do it. Right. Like, it makes more sense to have me, right? And it doesn't have to be like a 1-for-1 kind of. So for example, like, you help me with my work. I don't have to help you with your work. I can just help you in some other way. So it's like, yeah, while you're doing a Zoom lesson with one of your students, I'm going to make dinner, right? And it all balances out because when everyone's doing the thing that they're naturally good at and which comes easily to them and doesn't stress them out and maybe even makes them feel good and empowered, then things work better.
Or sometimes, like last night, I'll have my Zoom lesson and you'll watch YouTube, and then we'll go to Taco Bell when I'm done with my lesson.
Right.
Like we mutually agreed upon before I started my lesson.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But I mean, that's another thing we can touch on real quick is I have been doing these music production lessons. I have a few students now that are regular, but I have this one student who he like wrote this song on GarageBand and like on his iPad when he used to fly before the pandemic, and he had all this like these GarageBand fake instruments playing everything. And then we started working together, and we've basically just been like rebuilding this song from the ground up using like real bass and real guitars and all these things, microphones and whatnot. And I'm teaching him all these techniques and tricks. And then he's like, oh, I'm not really a singer, but here are these lyrics. Here is how I want it to be sung. So then I recorded the vocals for him and I sent it back. And now we've been working on mixing the vocals, and we're just like really making this song from the ground up together. And it's really cool for me. Like bass line, it's really cool for me. But he's so stoked and it's the first time he's like putting together a song that he's going to then put on Spotify, and I'm such a big part of it. And I mean, it's not about the money, but the fact that it's also my job is so cool. It's just like the coolest thing ever. I'm helping this guy live out his dream, and I'm working on it, and I'm teaching him stuff, and I'm performing on it, and we're doing it together, and it's really cool.
I am very happy for you. And Eric comes out of his little studio after a lesson, and he's super excited and
sweaty because I get all like right now you can see how red my face is. Like every time I do something like this where I'm like performing in a way or thinking a lot and having to speak, I get really hot. I'm really sweaty right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just been a really cool experience, and I have other students who I do different things with, and it's just all very fulfilling. And it goes along perfectly with you and I making music, because just by like teaching people stuff, I'm reminded of how I can do the best work for our music. And it's just working. The more I work with music outside of Cute Threat, I feel like the better I am at being in Cute Threat. So it's been great.
Makes sense.
Is there anything else you want to touch on?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like we covered everything. Any goals for the month of May?
Ooh, any goals? I mean, I don't think there's anything new. Yeah. I just want to stay strong on all of these things we're already doing. Yeah. I want to keep the nutrition in check. I want to keep the fitness in check. I want to keep going with these new experiences, trying new things, doing new things together, and making more songs, really. Because like recording covers for YouTube is cool, and we should keep doing some every now and then. But the fact that we basically have our first original song kind of almost done, I'm like, more of that, please. Yeah. What about you?
I'm right there with you. Mostly,
sorry.
I do really want to get very strong again, because every time I think about being happy in the past, I feel like fitness was right up there at the top of my list of priorities. And it just changes your brain a lot, you know?
And we can also relate it to our music aspirations, because when we're eventually on stage performing, we want to be fit. Like we want to be able to perform well and not get tired and out of breath and like jump around and run around and like feel strong.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously if we're going to be on stage, we want to feel confident. And if we are fit, we'll feel confident, and it'll be better to be on stage.
And even just singing is a very physical thing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely benefited from sweating and improving my respiratory health in the gym.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Everything's connected.
Sure is. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching or listening to this month's episode of What is Life, Dude? We will talk to you next month with, I can't even imagine what we're going to talk about. Right? It's going to be good. Who knows? Yeah.
It's going to be good. Hopefully a couple more hikes under our belts, collective belt. Hopefully we've been to a couple of breweries and a couple of adventures. Yeah. I think we're going to go, I mean, depending on how we feel post-vaccine dose 2, we're going to drive down to Boulder and spend some time outside at the park.
On Friday. Yeah, so hopefully after 2 days, we'll not feel so... Hopefully we don't feel anything at all. But from what I've heard from most people, you kind of feel like you have the flu the next day.
My mom said it took her a couple days to feel good.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I can recover faster than your mom, given my age.
Right.
But let's see what happens.
Yes.
All right. Without further ado, let's send it over and close it out with our supporter shout out. Hi guys, we're pausing this conversation for a few moments to give a big thank you to our supporters. These are our listeners who make a monthly contribution through Anchor, which is our hosting platform. If you'd like to become a supporter as well, you can visit anchor.fm/whatislifedude and click on the support button.
And if you enjoy the show, another great way to support us is by giving us a positive rating and a review on iTunes. Just takes a few moments and it helps new listeners find the podcast so we can continue to grow our community. So thank you so much to everyone who supports us in one way or another. This podcast wouldn't exist without you guys.
So without further ado, shout out to our anchor supporters, Inga Pfeiffer, Morgan Lassiter, Jennifer, Scotty Draper, Glenn Ames, Kevin Dooley, Jessica Chelgren, Marie Zimmerman, Nina Schmidt, Izzy, Reem, Alexis Dooley, Annalise, Nadia, Merv, Teresa Madara, Kelsey Pritchett, Ellis Adler, Anna Jareka, Megan Stewart, Samantha McIntyre, Dylan Schaubin, and Sarah Creighton.